Hi, and welcome to the Frog Pond School of Design, where we like to talk about things related to architecture and tell some stories now and then. I want to talk today about a process that takes place in the planning of a building that a lot of people don't think about, and that is keying. It can get kind of involved where you have to decide which doors are controlled by which keys and how you want to group them and who's going to get what keys and all that. The system has its shortcomings. It allows only so much flexibility, and if you happen to have a business with a lot of employees, these employees come and go, and collecting keys back from employees who have left the organization is pretty challenging sometimes. And let's face it, a lot of times you just never see those keys again. So there are shortcomings to the system, but it's worked basically for forever since we've had keys. But today there's a term other than keying, and that is called access control, which kind of implies electronic access control, which requires all the occupants of the building to carry some sort of identifier. And this is an amazing process because you can have each individual in the system and tell the system which doors this person can enter, which doors he or she can't enter, what time of day it can activate, and times of day that it can't activate. So there's a lot of flexibility, but probably the biggest advantage is being able to write that person out of the system when he or she leaves the organization, and boom, you don't have to go collect a key from them. It's pretty much automatic. So all this came to mind recently when we were talking about access control for a new facility, and one of the clients said, well, all our people already carry a fob. They use it for clocking in and clocking out, and that would probably work for the access control system as well, and certainly it will. But this reminded me of a project I worked on a while back where we were actually doing research facilities for a nutrition research facility for cattle. Now this, if you're going to compare how cattle perform based on compared to their diet, you always had to house them separately depending on their diet, which works, except that it requires an awful lot of animals because, like so many animals, cattle are social beings. They have a social structure that if you disrupt by putting too few of them together, you can skew the results of the research. So, how to do this without having huge numbers of animals so that you can, have a major group with each diet that's being researched. Enter electronic access control and the fob. In this case, all these animals wore a fob, and there were electronic feed gates. So a given animal had to go to one specific gate in order to eat and get his or her diet specific for that animal. Worked fine, and only that gate would open. These animals are smart. They don't have to look for that gate a second time. They know where it is, and after the very first day, everything's fine. They're housed in a huge group, but they're fed individually, and it was a big boon for that kind of research. Now, the interesting thing, it's an interesting application of what we call access control, but the interesting thing about this particular case is that facility I was working on was almost 40 years ago. So maybe this technology isn't quite as new and fresh and different as we thought it was. We've been using it for quite a while. Hey, thanks for joining us today on the Frog Pond School of Design. I look forward to seeing you hanging around the pond again real soon.